competition shows.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, oh, I got into baking because this traumatic
Oh my
thing
God,
happened.
yeah. It was like
Or-
they did this on like American Idol back in the day, where it was always
oh,
like,
I'm my
wait,
mom
why are
wanted
you
me to
doing
sing
this?
and
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
dead.
Why
human
do? I'm Terry,
I'm Jed.
and together we human. On today's episode, we're talking about, once again, a sensitive topic. We're asking the question, why trauma bond? I think we're characterizing this as, why do we as humans decide to bond over negative experiences? What is it about that feeling of commiserating with someone when things haven't gone right in your life? Or what is it with the negative bias, which we know exists sort of in our biological brains? But why is it that we oftentimes, maybe even particularly in this era, why we find social currency in the traumatic experiences that we've been through?
Mm-hmm. How do we weigh that and value that versus other interactions?
Yeah. Where do they show up? And ultimately, like, are they productive sometimes? And is there value to talking about these things? So we're going to talk about that in this episode.
Yes.
But before we do, we do.
DMCA copyright.
We oftentimes will unpack something socially awkward or notable that happened in our lives, whether recently or in the past.
Would you like to start off?
Maybe I'll start off only, and I won't even argue. I don't know. This, I think, is something that happened to me yesterday, or over the course of the last week, really.
Okay.
And it's not. I think it's an example of something that, like, oftentimes gives us a lot of social anxiety, which is having to handle a major sort of like transaction with unknown people.
Mm-hmm.
And so, just to give setup to the story, I had gotten my water bill. I gotten my LADWP bill, which includes both water, sewage, trash collection, and electricity. So it comes as one bill. And I noticed one big beautiful bill.
I couldn't resist.
But it does itemize it, but oftentimes I don't check that closely. But this month it had gone up a significant amount. And so I thought to myself, my bill had been kind of steadily creeping up because of increasing like rates and things like that. But I finally took a chance to be like, whoa, this is like kind of a staggering increase over the last bill. So I looked more closely and I realized actually my electricity had been going down. My usage had been going down. So it wasn't a product of that, but it was a product of my water bill. And suddenly things started clicking into my head. The kind of like sound of running water that had been happening for the last few weeks started to resurface in my brain as, whoa,
wait a minute. That's not just
noise. That's just, yeah, exactly. Because it was a very subtle sound, and it wasn't the sound of like, so for more context, I hadn't noticed any pooling of water. I hadn't noticed any water damage. What ended up happening was there was this kind of the sound. So when you like flush your toilet and your water tank refills, that sound was sort of happening. So it's like water through pipes, but not water splashing. And so in retrospect, I realized that there had probably been some leak happening. And so what I discovered was that there's a way to check if your water meter is like counting upward. And so I went out to the curb and I looked at the water meter and I discovered that it was just like doing this slow kind of creep around. And so it'd been doing that just nonstop. Yeah. And that's why my water bill had been going up, but I didn't know where the leak was. All I knew was that I heard the sound of water through pipes in my bathroom. And it's not a bathroom, it's the second bathroom, so I don't use it very often, so I didn't really hear it constantly. But I went and I looked underneath. There's a little crawl space underneath my bathroom, and I still couldn't see the leak, but I could hear it. I could hear the water running. And so on Sunday, I went out and I just like shut off the water to the house because I was like, I don't know where this water is going and it's like racking up a bill. So I might as well just like shut off the entire thing. And I couldn't like just shut off like one thing, right? I couldn't just turn off my toilet or anything like that. And so I think like this all gets to like the social anxiety of having to like, ask an unknown person to come and inspect something in your house,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not sure like where they're from, and you're not sure like if they're reputable or trustworthy, because like you can look at all the reviews, and I did look at all the reviews, and I did the thing where I like went on Yelp, and Yelp has this feature where like you can like contact a business, but it'll also send out your request to many other plumbers. And so immediately I was like bombarded with like a bunch of different plumbers, but eventually I did hear back from the plumbers that I had like originally reached out to. And so they reached out back to me, and they like set a time to come look at it. And they did, and I will say the whole experience, just to sort of jump to the end, I'll come back, but just to say that it ended up being like a very like pleasant experience.
Phew. Relief.
But of course, like the whole time I'm sort of maneuvering through this this thing that we have to go through when we have someone who's an expert in something that we have no clue about, and we have to put our trust into some stranger who like knows a lot more than us. I was super worried that like the whole thing would be like a total disaster, like that they would have to like rip up the floorboards to be able to find the leak. Like then that means that they would have to replace like tile and underflooring and like the pipes and everything. But he gets here, and within like, so I like he walks in, and he's like this like plumber, and he comes with like, I don't know, his like 21-year-old apprentice or whatever. So he's like very young. And you know, I'm worried because the crawl space is pretty narrow and it's pretty hard to get in there, but people have gotten in there, but it is tough. But he like gets there, and I'm like, hey, here's the deal. Like, I noticed my water bill. He asked me a couple questions like, how long did you notice? How much more was the water? And I tell him that I shut off the water main at the front. He's like, okay, cool. We'll like turn it back on and we'll inspect it. And I tell him like the sound that I heard was running water underneath the bathroom. He's like, do you have another bathroom? I was like, yes, I do. And then he like walked through the house a little bit just to see where he was like, you know, getting the lay of the land of where the pipes would be.
Did he compliment anything about your house?
No, he didn't say anything. He just came in. He was just like very professional. He was very much just like, okay, I just need to like get a look, just get the lay of the land. And so I'm like, here's where the bathroom is. And I took him out to like where the floorboard, like where the under space is. And I like showed him like where he could like look inside. And I'm like, I hear the sound of running water there. And so I'm always of the opinion that like, you don't stand over people doing their work. So I like went back inside and let him do his thing and let him come to me whenever he had an update or a question. And so he comes back and he like very immediately, like within, I want to say like 15 minutes, has sort of diagnosed the problem. He's like, we've crawled under there. We see the pipe. They've taken pictures. Like, here's what's happening. And then he drops like the news. He's like, okay, so here's what you'll probably need to do eventually, which was replace all the pipes in the house. And he was like, I think he knew that I wasn't going to go with that option. He was like, that's very expensive. Like, probably not going to do that. And then he gave me a couple other tiers of options. One being just replace the like section of the pipe just to like not let it flood or not let it like keep spilling water, which was already fairly expensive in and of itself. But then he was like, eventually you're going to have to like you're going to have to replace the pipes, but like, one thing you can do is like reduce the water pressure that the city gives you by adding this like mechanism that like basically throttles the pressure. And so he ended up doing that. And like, you know, it's one of those moments where you're like, are you upselling me or is this like a real solution? But it did sound like something that like would prolong the life of the pipes. And so I like went for it. But then there was one other solution that was like another like $700 or something. And I was like, I don't think I'm going to do that because it sounded like a nice to have. But it was one of those moments where I was like, I had to like suss out because like, as I told you, I had scheduled another guy to come out afterward just because I wanted just, you know, for, you know, sort of like sake of like feeling good about the transaction. I wanted to get someone else just to be like, hey, here's what I think, like a second opinion. But ultimately, like they were already here. They had diagnosed it. They could do it within a couple hours. And part of me was also worried that like the second guy would just charge me regardless for coming out. And so it was like, okay, it's reasonable. Like it's a little expensive, but like ultimately it's like not like an insane fix. And the guy kind of like leaned over to me at the end. He was like, oh, like who were you going to get to like come out here? Cause I could probably tell you if they were going to be more expensive or less expensive. And then he hadn't heard of them, but then he was like, yeah, I mean, like we tend to be like honestly on the cheaper end. It probably sounded like they weren't the cheapest option, but then he was like, we tend to be like cheaper than like a lot of people. So I was like, he kind of like did the thing where I was like, he kind of was like, you know, when you like have, cause like, of course, like he was a technician or a plumber who was like belonged to a bigger plumbing company. And so it's like, sometimes it's like nice when like the plumber is like, kind of like, hey, I just work for these guys, but like, here's like the truth. And
yeah,
that's what I've kind of felt like. He was like giving to me a little bit. And like ultimately, like within a couple hours, they'd fixed it and like gone out and done the thing. And I felt like pretty good about the transaction, but like, you know, you always like are just like, oh, I'm not sure. Cause sometimes I think some people can leave you feeling like, ooh, I got like taken advantage of, or like I didn't really like how this went. But ultimately, like he like didn't make me feel that way. So
That's great.
yeah.
I think that does highlight an issue we often run into is when we have to defer to experts in something we're not familiar with.
Yeah.
And the thing that's hard to gauge is because you don't know about the thing that they're seeing you for, whether it's a doctor diagnosing you, a plumber
Yeah.
coming through. You don't know if they have a vested interest in actually taking care of your situation
Yeah.
or trying to upsell you something.
Yeah, it's like, what are you optimizing for,
Right.
right? Like you're always like trying to read people based on like what is their actual motive.
Yeah. I took my car to a different dealership once, and they were like, and this is just in a different location.
Oh yeah, so same
And
actual dealership.
Same actual dealership. I mean, it's a whole different conversation about
Right.
should you take your car to a dealership or
Right,
like a
or to a
specialist?
special-
Like,
yeah,
yeah. But they were trying to upsell things
Yeah.
that were
Yeah,
not.
you're like,
Like, oh, okay,
all
yeah,
these,
I
like
guess you
nice to
could.
haves or whatever.
Whereas talking about the person who kind of like, I think a person who seems to like have your
Yeah.
interests in mind, even if it actually isn't, I think that goes a long way.
I think like so much what I realize about like a lot of transactions, and maybe I'll allude to another story where I didn't feel like great about it. Was like, it's not always about like the actual cost of anything. It's the like way you make someone feel about it.
Yes.
You know, it's like, how are you managing expectations? So the alternative experience, which was a totally separate experience, but it was a transaction that ultimately I didn't complete, was when I was looking for cars. I went into this dealership. I was looking for used EVs.
Name names.
I know, I like really want to.
Not.
But I went into this dealership that had like priced all the cars at a very specific price point because at the time there was a rebate. So they priced it at a certain price point that could get the rebate because it had to be under a certain value. But when I went and I actually went to the dealership, suddenly they had marked everything up as high up as they could. And they were like, and the one thing that really annoyed me was like, they were like, we have like $3,000 worth of add-ons that you can't not get. And it was like their dealer add-ons. It was like on a used car. It was like a premium wax of the, and we're like, I don't want that. And they were like, well, we can't take it off. And I'm like, certainly you can. Certainly you don't have to do that. But they were like, you could feel that like their goal was to get to a price point. And that they had purposely marked these cars down to incentivize people to come in. When in reality, like
Some
if you had
cost
just
fallacy.
said it, you would have just you would have said no, and like people would have all been better. People would have just like, you would have saved people time, and they are just like relying on the fact that like, yes, like you said, like you are assuming the sunk cost and you're willing to like, because you're already there, spend the extra like $7,000 or whatever.
Yeah. It's definitely a predatory practice.
Yeah. But it leaves people like not feeling good about it. I don't know.
Right.
I guess my ethos in life is like better to like give people the correct information and let them make the right choice and feel
An
good about that
informed
choice, an
decision,
informed
yes.
decision, as opposed to doing these like predatory practices where you like, maybe you get one out of every couple people, but you like leave 10 people out of every 11 feeling like not good and like leaving bad reviews and like never wanting to come back.
Oh, yeah. You're seeing like two versions of this that are happening is like, oh, you're looking for a place to rent. It's this cheap. And then when you show up, it's like, by the way,
It's actually not.
It's actually not
more
this. It's
expensive
gonna
than
be
this. Yeah, or all these extra fees and like
Yes.
it's like the Airbnb, right, model where
Right.
you're just like, oh, let me show you this price, but really it's like there's a cleaning fee and an extra like maintenance fee and like a safety fee and like blah 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 blah. And suddenly you're like, well, that's not the price you quoted me.
Yes. And another example would be, oh, looking for this job. It's remote. You got to come into the office.
Yeah, totally.
And actually, it pays this much.
Yeah, exactly.
They
It's
want
like
you in there so that they can convince you from there.
exactly, which I'm like, I don't know. I just think like better to have everyone on the same page as early as possible. And I don't honestly, I can see the short-term benefits of the alternative, but like in any of these situations, like talk about a job, you're not like, ultimately that person's, if they do take the job, they're not going to stay very long, or they're going to feel
Right.
really bad about having taken the job. If they take it at the whatever, or you're not fundamentally doing your job as the recruiter by getting people who want to work there. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you're getting the wrong people.
We're coming in from a place of deception and
Yeah.
underhandedness.
Right. Which like, I mean, exists in a lot of places. Like you can talk about like dating apps and things like that where people like definitely
I'm a literal catfish.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a cat.
I got you.
Yomp. Let me go back to my pond. So yeah, I think for me, I just like the more we can like accurately from as early as possible give what the thing is, the better.
I always respect a professional that I have to defer to who will break it down for me in an accessible way and then give me the options.
Yeah.
And make it, they can at least make it seem like I have a choice in the matter.
Totally. It just like, it gives you autonomy and like authority over the decision.
And it's a transaction that feels respectful.
Totally. Yeah. Like no one's pressuring you to do anything. Like that's actually a great way to do it, is to give options and not tell you which way to go.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like you always have the option not to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, I think what gives people alignment. And so I think that like ultimately it like leads to people having like a good experience.
Right. Because now we're at a place culturally where we're very distrustful of almost everything.
Yeah.
For good reason.
Yeah.
But also it's made us try to be experts for ourselves in things we don't know about, which is also causing problems.
Yeah.
But yikes.
So anyway, for me, like pretty good experience in that regard.
Yes, thankfully.
And I think like we could all take a cue from that experience in our life.
Oof. Yeah.
But ultimately also like lesson in life is also have some spare cash ready so that you can like cover a bill.
Have you thought about having money?
Have you thought about having money?
Hey, consider it.
Which is also tough. Also, I understand how difficult that is too.
No, but it really does it really does help.
Have a rainy day fund.
Have a rainy day fund.
Yeah. How about you? What?
There are two potential things that I could talk about. One is maybe more unique to our experience, and the other is I'm giving both options.
Yeah.
And probably someone's just say both, but I think I just have the bandwidth for one.
Okay, we'll do one.
Okay, and the other is just about truly navigating a social situation. So, what do you think appeals to you more there? I leave it to you, Terry.
I think so. I mean, selfishly, I want A, but I feel like B is like for the show. I don't know.
I think I'm feeling selfish today.
Okay, good.
So this is something that's more unique to us, which is that we've been doing this podcast. We're like on episode at the time of this recording, like what, 13, 14?
Yeah.
We're now putting our opinions in things that conceivably live on, right?
Yeah.
We're putting our values and our opinions out there.
Yeah.
I'm running into a place now where sometimes I either find myself repeating something that I've said for the podcast that I actually do believe that I'm starting to feel is like, am I just parroting
myself? Yeah, totally.
And I'm also running into the issue where if my stance changes after recording something, I'm afraid of being held to that standard.
I know. I think we should caveat this, just like big PSA right here.
Yeah.
Our opinions might change based on new information that we get in the future. Let's just like say that.
It's good to be mutable.
Yes.
Is that the word?
Yeah.
Yes. I think that's the thing that's difficult, is trying to contend with the idea that you can put a thought or feeling, etc., out there, and culturally there are people who are online who will say, you said this, I'm holding you to this standard that you said X amount of months, years, days ago.
Yes.
And I'm not trying to cover my bases and say,
no.
oh, no, I'm not. Actually, I don't believe it at all. But it is starting to be, I'm starting to feel a little bit like the water's rising.
Sure,
I'm like,
sure.
oh, now I'm presenting myself a particular way, and I have to hold myself to that standard.
Yeah, totally.
Which is getting a little bit like, and again, like the stakes are so low.
I know we have to hold ourselves accountable to our 3 listeners.
Yes, exactly. And now, I mean, truly, right? That's our base.
Yeah.
But it is.
But it is like it is like I think there's something funny, or just like maybe like we have to reconcile the idea that like we have 2 versions of ourselves, right? The like the sort of digital version that we place out there, and then the person that we are in real life, and like how do we square the two?
Right.
Because like, look, I mean, I would argue that we're pretty much ourselves when we're talking right here, but I would also argue that like our opinions are a bit incendiary by design, because like that, and we're also exaggerating for more comedic effect, I think, when we want to, because like that's the point of having these conversations. And what we would do, honestly, in private too, we would we would probably have wild opinions that we keep to ourselves, but like just for fun, to talk about.
There's a shared language that we have between us,
Yeah.
as friends, as comedians,
Yeah.
as entertainers, performers, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
That, like, we can understand that might not always be,
Yeah.
Conveyed appropriately to some people.
Oh,
who
totally.
Can't interpret it.
Yeah, and then of course anyone can take anything out of context too, which
Right.
is like,
Like when you said you hate women.
I know, right? Repeat that and spread that throughout the whole internet. So was there a particular moment
It's
recently,
super
or
minor.
Yeah.
But just I think there was a time we were talking about punctuality, and then I think I said something. We must have had a conversation around, and this is recorded in one of our episodes. About
Yeah.
like, being on time.
Yeah.
For certain people. And then I think it was within our group that I was like, yeah, we should be punctual. And then
Yeah.
I was like 15 minutes late.
Yeah.
And I was like,
no, I mean, of
am
course.
I a hypocrite?
Yeah. I mean, look,
Do I have to
think
hold myself to the standard forever?
yeah. Well, here's the thing. I think that's not hypocritical. I think because you're self-aware that you did it. I think it'd be hypocritical to be like, I can be late, but you can't be late. That's
Sure,
hypocritical.
Yes.
But to be like, oh no, I'm late, and I always say that you should be like on time. Like that's just literally just like things just happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I know. It's funny because right, like then it suddenly becomes like your whatever you say online. I think this is right. People have to be held to those standards. Like, and this is like, I guess like the most extreme version is for like politicians, right? Like things that they say and then that they do aren't always gonna 100% align because like people are fallible. Also, again, people's opinions are allowed to change too based on new information. Ideally, like your principles remain the same, your values remain the same, but I think, yeah, you're allowed.
The nuance of being a messy, sloppy human.
Yeah. So we are 100%
We
infallible. So but no. But yes, we're allowed to like be messy too, and like not also say the exact same things, and we're also we are allowed to repeat ourselves in real life too.
Yeah.
And it's not plagiarism to say something that we said before.
Right.
I mean, I've been spouting the same shit for 20 years.
And now it's just solidified.
Yeah. Now it's just on the internet.
Right. I think I just felt that sort of catching up to me, and I was wondering where you were at with that as well.
Yeah,
because,
I think
we're this many episodes in.
It's funny. I think probably like especially it happens because you handle a lot of like the short content that gets put out there, and sometimes I'll like see something that you picked, and I'll be like, oh my god, I did say that. And like, do I want to be singularly associated with saying this thing? Like, because that's what also happens. It's not just that like it's the thing is out there. It's that like you're uniquely, because it occupies like a bigger portion of who you are because it's like the thing that you chose to put out there.
Right. That might be people's first foray into meeting you.
Right. And it's like, you said that thing. Yeah. You're like famous for not famous. But our friends could even be like that. Like that's the interaction we've had. It's like, you said this thing. And suddenly it's like I remember you said that thing.
Like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ever
I'll take it back.
Yeah.
Forget you ever heard that.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't know. It's like I think it's like all of us have to grapple with this version that we put out there and this version that we exist in the world.
Is all of it still us, even if we're presenting a version of ourselves?
See, that's the thing, right? Because like whatever happens on the internet changes the context. It changes like it's a really difficult and nuanced thing, I think, to talk about because it is you in that moment, but you exist within like a place and time that doesn't, and when you take that out, when you take the moment out of space and time, you change it. And so I think
movies from the 90s and 80s that are quote unquote problematic.
Well, we don't know. Do they work? Maybe.
It's of the time.
Yeah. So I think yes. I think the world will do it. The world, like social media, will flatten that. But I think like we have to be wary of those moments where we even catch ourselves being like, oh God, we see a video of a stranger who's doing something and we're immediately like demonizing them. Or just like, well, we don't really know the context around it. We don't know what happened. We don't know a lot about what's going on.
Yeah.
And how it can ruin lives so quickly. Like I was even just like this morning, I got fed a video of this like young lifeguard in like Northern California. I think it was like Santa Cruz. Did you see this at all?
Mm-mm.
It was like massive waves, and this kid, this 16-year-old lifeguard, was trying to like save this like 10-year-old. And the waves were insane. They were like on the shore, but like the waves kept crashing in, and like everyone was like, "This kid's a hero," blah 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 blah. And you see these non-lifeguards, like older than the lifeguard, come out trying to like help him, and lifeguard's like, go, because like you could easily see that situation being like that lifeguard has to save 4 people now.
Right.
And so like, but I could see like that in my head, I was like spiraling a little bit. Just like, what are you then like, you see like, you could imagine a video where they like pan over to these guys just watching and doing nothing, and then the internet like demonizes them, like these they're not doing anything. Yeah. Or like, you know, they like get in there and they save them and they become heroes, and the lifeguard's like, you shouldn't have done that, like then teaches the wrong lesson. And like, I don't know, just like the internet can take hold of something and turn it into something else. They're like imagine like old myths, old like Roman and Greek myths that like turned into, so it was like maybe they like had their sort of like origination in some real thing that happened as a lesson or something, and then it just like transmuted into like something totally different than what it was, just to prove a point or to further sort of like an agenda, you know.
Odysseus was like, I wanted to leave.
I know, yeah. It's like, I never wanted to come back.
Wanted to come back.
I was like, I know, I feel like I was talking to someone the other day. I was like, I just want a movie where like the person like really wants to come back, and I was like, did Odysseus really want to come back? It took him 20 years.
I mean, could you
and he kind of just like hung out. He just kind of like hung out. I'm like, you took a lot of roundabout ways to get back.
Casual pace.
Like it's like you could have hopped on a plane, but you took the longest. But you decided to take the Carnival cruise line.
You took the scenic route. There's a direct line to Anne Hathaway.
Yeah, Penelope.
I haven't seen the Odyssey yet. Anyway,
but yes,
yeah, okay.
Lesson is we have to reconcile our in-person people, the people we are in person versus the people we are online. And like honestly, like I think it's also a case for like restricting the amount that you put yourself online.
That's fair. And I also think that culturally we're just conditioned to be judgmental of people online, and we want to take the most morally correct stance, or the stance with the most conviction. Yeah. But we live in a nuanced world, and there needs to be room, because if we're holding people on the internet to the standard, then it will be very suffocating to then hold ourselves to that same standard.
Yeah, of course.
What if you're that person on the beach, being like, oh, I was helpless in that moment, but I wanted to do something, but now I'm just a helpless guy on the internet who didn't help.
Yeah, completely. No, I know. I hear that.
There's got to be room. We're all screwing ourselves by judging people. And look, sometimes it feels good to lean into it.
Of course.
Because it's not us. But I think it's contributing to how very suffocating it is.
Yeah. Okay, well, maybe we can move to our topic of the day.
Yes,
our
which
topic
is again,
du jour.
Which was again, why trauma bond?
Why trauma bond? And I think the larger conversation is like, why do we connect with people over shared traumatic experiences or like negative experiences? And I think we've talked about this on this podcast before, but like that we have as humans a negativity bias, which has been like built into us over the course of human evolution.
Yes, I believe we covered this in our criticism episode.
Yeah. Why we take on negative news more than we do positive news is because it's a mechanism for self-defense. And so I think that probably there's a lot of that inside the reason why we trauma bond. But I think like we can more narrowly look into trauma bonding as this sort of like singular moment where we like overemphasize like the negative and traumatic experience in order to connect with another person. And I think this happens, I don't know, I think it happens a lot it can be a way, like, again, like even when we're talking about, it can happen in small ways, right? Like where we share outrage online, like
Mhm.
a thing that outrages us, like any sort of clip of Trump or of like some senator or of a CEO, and we all collectively groan or we
Mhm.
go like, yeah, we point fingers. But it also happens when we're like, have like a specific sort of traumatic event that happens in our lives. And I
Mhm.
think the other thing about like trauma bonding is it can quickly get into trauma Olympics, like where we're all trying
Mhm.
to like over or out trauma each other.
Yes.
Um, I think actually one sort of like scenario that I like to pose is like
Mm.
that moment where you're like in a grouping of people, maybe you've like signed up for a seminar or a class, and you're kind of like all have like a moment to like go around the room. I find that there's
Mhm.
always this like, it doesn't happen every time, but there is this moment where like people start sharing a traumatic experience. I think there's an episode of Community, like in a theater class, where like Donald Glover's character,
My emotions. My emotions.
he like doesn't he like fabricate
Yes,
like
that he was
abused as a
by his uncle.
yeah,
Yes, that's right.
and like it's like this pressure to create a traumatic experience as social currency.
It is social currency. I think that's the
Yeah,
root of it.
and I think that like it's a shortcut first off, I think, and maybe we can talk about this more, to vulnerability, to be like, we're
Yeah.
open, you're not hiding something from me. It's like you know, like in the old days when like a handshake was meant to show that you didn't have guns, you know, like that was what it was
Oh,
for.
I didn't know
Or it was
that.
like having your hands out meant that you weren't hiding anything.
So when someone spits in my hand.
Yeah, right. What does that mean?
Okay, I didn't know
and
that.
the modern day equivalent is, when I was 7 years old, my father, you know,
Just
like,
shake my hand,
yeah,
brother.
yeah, I know, right? But there, I don't know. I guess like that's one thing I kind of consider it.
Mhm.
And maybe for us personally, like it happens in a lot of like performance classes, like acting,
Oh, sure. Yes.
anything where you're just like, there's this, regardless of whether you want to do it or not, like there's this like sort of pressure to like break yourself down and like become like super like such a like live wire.
Mhm.
Um,
We see this. I mean, this is exaggerated and almost parodied to this point about like competition shows.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, oh, I got into baking because this traumatic.
oh my
thing
God,
happened.
yeah, it was like
Or-
they did this on like American Idol back in
Exactly.
the day, where it was
exactly.
always
Oh,
like,
I'm sing- my
wait,
mom
why are
wanted
you
me to
doing
sing
this?
and
Yeah, yeah,
she's
yeah.
dead.
It was always that. It's always like the music would swell
Right.
in their backstory, and
Mhm.
like
It's a quick way to ingratiate.
yeah, and then
yourself.
immediately they go into the song, and it's like a
Yes.
really sad song or whatever.
Then it becomes a fabricated, powerful moment. Like, oh,
Right.
I was
Yeah.
quickly able to invest in this person's backstory, and what
Right.
a payoff.
Yeah, exactly. And then you cut to like the wings where there's like the mom crying or the dad, the widower.
You see
You know?
the force ghost of the grandpa.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the Obi-Wan Kenobi
Yes, exactly.
hologram. Yeah, it's funny, like just, and I think like the opposite of this. So like most reality shows do that
Mhm.
version. The only show that I think does the complete opposite. Actually, I would say two shows, but the prime example is Wheel of Fortune.
Oh.
Anytime they go around, they ask for the most family-friendly, innocuous fact
Yeah,
about
yeah.
them. They don't do like a trauma at all. It's always like, why don't you give an introduction to yourself? Hey, I'm Tabitha. I'm from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and in my spare time, I love to crochet. Like, I'm here with my husband and my
Yes.
three boys. They're all Boy Scouts.
I crochet to get away from the.
Yeah.
No, moving on. Moving on.
I would love like a secondary like flashback moment where it's just like, and why I crochet is
And
because
this
I was
is why.
abused as a child. I was I was held in a basement for
Right,
first
right.
18 years of my life.
And now, just for clarification, we're not making light of these actual scenarios.
No.
These real things that do happen to people.
We're making fun of the exploitation of these
the
things.
exploitation of it. Yes.
Sorry, really quickly, I just had this thing pop up in my head because it's talking about sort of acting classes and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I'm taking a improv class,
yes.
as you know.
Yes.
With our friend,
And I'm
teaching.
so jealous because I wish to be a part of it.
Yes. But every week we have to go around. We just walk around the space and we have to like
Sharing.
settle on whoever we're next to, and we just like do eye contact.
Oh God, yeah.
And I'll literally take you through my thought process. And like, I swear to God, the person, my partner, whoever was like across from me, must have some superpower to just like sense things. I was a little bit like, I wasn't prepared to unpack it in the moment with him, but like he definitely sensed it. I was like, this is all happening around. I've sort of like unpacked with you like my state last week. Where I was just feeling like very like, I was feeling like a raw nerve. It wasn't even anything in particular or anything traumatic. It was accumulation of things where I was just like at my wit's end.
Right.
And all we had to do was like make eye contact for like 30 seconds to a minute with our partner. And throughout the whole thing, I was like, okay, I was just doing the normal thing for a while. But when that like 30 seconds or 45 seconds came around, I actually had this weird thought where I was like, I went through the process of being like, I should like be being vulnerable right now. And that led me to like, would I even be able to be vulnerable in this moment? Because it's like feelings very manufactured. And then suddenly my eyes started just like welling up and I like had to hold it back. I was like, cause it was a lot of like, I was like, cause then I just like immediately was like, you know, when you're like in a vulnerable place, like you're in a raw place, but you're doing a lot of stuff. And so you never let your body like catch up with you.
Yes.
And in that moment I was doing nothing. I was literally just making eye contact. And for the last 30 seconds, it just like started coming out. And I was like, and I didn't realize it was showing so much, but the person who I was making eye contact with at the very end, when our teacher called like move on, he like reached over and like grabbed me and is like, hey dude, are you okay?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. I like sort of like washed it because we had to
Yes.
move on and stuff like
Right.
that. But I was like, dude, you like totally saw it.
Wow.
And I was like, because it was this really silly moment, I thought, like, because it wasn't anything like serious or anything. It was just like, I knew it was just stuff catching up to me, a bunch of different little things that I just like was like, oh, it's not worth like explaining or whatever. And I was just like, I was just feeling a little bit raw at the moment.
Yeah. I think this is a tough one to navigate because, again, there's a fear because of how pervasive it is. There's a fear of like, am I manufacturing this in the moment?
Well,
When can I allow myself to be real?
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
having that thought process too.
Yes.
The whole thing was like, oh, would I even do this? Like, would I even be able to do it right now?
Right.
Like, if I wanted to like even like, and then even the thought was like, what's going on in my life right now where I would feel like the motivation to do that? And I was
Right.
like, then it started bringing me to that and what that I thought. And I suddenly was like, oh God, it does like kind of like make me feel raw.
Yes. In that environment, I think that is perfectly acceptable
Yeah.
and welcomed.
Yeah, totally.
It is hard to be seen in that way.
I know. You're like, oh my God, you noticed something that I was trying to like hide back.
Right.
Where you're like, oh
Right.
God, because I felt myself as I felt it like happening, and I was like, no, I gotta hold it in.
Yes.
It's like, I'm fine, everything's
Right.
good.
And in these kinds of classes, it's usually welcome to be like, okay, lean into that. and
Yeah,
experiment
yeah,
with it. But
yeah.
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
We're just so used to being like, let's keep this under wraps, which I think makes sense as to why we're so inclined to trauma bond.
Yeah, it's this like signal that we're on a deeper emotional connection right away, like
Mhm.
that we can like feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you share, I'll feel safe to share too.
Yes.
It's like we're showing our cards.
Right. And who you do it with is very important.
Oh my God, because I think the danger of trauma bonding too early is that like you give information before you have earned trust.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that can be very dangerous because we
Mhm.
know people who can weaponize those experiences that we share.
This kind of ties into the thing that I was going to choose to share, what the other story, but I had met a person that I had not met before.
Yeah.
And we had a mutual friend, and I did catch myself like this complete stranger. I think it was a good way for me to like take a pulse on where I was at, where I was
Yeah.
like catching myself being self-deprecating as they
Mm.
were trying to find out about me
Yeah.
very quickly.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, that's a good indicator that, because it can be kind of seen as a way to like put out some vulnerable stuff there
Yeah.
to trauma bond, but I don't necessarily think it's the healthiest way to do
No.
it. But it was
it
a
shouldn't be
good
the
indicator.
first thing out, right?
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
I think you have to earn a little bit of that space before you do it. And I think you have to be wary of people who do it too quickly
Yes.
because like
For sure.
they probably haven't processed it in a healthy way they probably haven't like developed good bonding tactics with people. Healthy bonding tactics. Yeah.
Yeah, because like whatever this thing is, it's so ingrained in them, and they have no way to process it, communicate it. So it comes out that way. Like, put it out there, put it out there, put it out there.
Yeah.
Look for someone to connect with.
Yeah.
But you become reliant on that person.
Yeah.
Codependent even.
And I think that's why like there are certain spaces where like relationships made within those spaces probably aren't the healthiest. And that's like, you know, not that I have been, sadly, to like rehab or anything like that, but like, you know, like in treatment or inpatient treatment, I think is like a thing where like you probably bond quickly over trauma.
Oh yeah.
Or like AA meetings or like, and that's the nature of those things. But like, I think that's why you hear a lot of stories about like how those relationships can like, because you jump really quickly to spaces that you haven't, again, earned enough trust to feel safe in. And so I think that's like one of the things that we all have to be sort of like vigilant about.
Yeah, because like what's going on mechanically when you feel like you are really deeply connecting with someone? Because if you're used to just very surface level conversations, oh, weather's great today, blah, blah, blah. Oh, how you doing? Good, good. It's very draining if you are contending with something that is taking a toll on you.
Yeah.
And when someone sees that, or you put something out there and someone responds to that, it feels like life affirming, I would dare say.
I think there is something like also necessary about sharing sort of deeper things that are preoccupying you at the moment. And like, again, the trauma doesn't have to be like this like long ago past trauma that you have, but it could be just like a trauma in the moment or like a thing that you're stressed about. And I think the act of like sharing that with someone, well, especially someone you have long history with, like is helpful in like both talking it out, but also just being able to like verbalize it. And it's like something that's so interior can like lose a lot of its weight when you externalize it a little bit or like put it out there. So I think there is like talking about, and that's not necessarily trauma bonding necessarily, because trauma bonding I would argue is like really like about two people sharing the similar experiences,
as opposed to trauma dumping.
This is more like trauma dumping, which can also like, I guess, like, because a lot of times when someone trauma dumps on you, you try to like sort of share that experience with them, and like maybe that requires a bit of like sharing how you've gone through something or like how you can relate to that, without, you know, hijacking the
which is
that moment, which is a very delicate like line to walk.
But if you're constantly the recipient of trauma dumping, then it's just you then associate that person with
you don't want to always be you don't want to always be trauma dumping all the time, of course, but like when you need to, because like I think trauma dumping can be baiting people into trauma bonding. And I think if your sort of instinct is always to trauma dump on your sort of like at the beginning of every conversation or like when you're meeting new people, I think it's time to reevaluate like how you're forming relationships.
Yeah, definitely. Because again, it's life affirming when someone sees you. It's so addicting to be like, wow, this is the kind of connection that I value. How do I get more of this? And whether you mean to or not, you could be doing it that way.
I think you're also like setting the framework for that relationship if you do it too early. Like, because then you're like your relationships. I think healthy relationships should be dynamic in what they share. Like, you should be sharing interests, and like also you should be sharing like happy moments as much as you share sad moments. Like, I think if you start trauma dumping and trauma bonding too early, I think that's all your relationship oftentimes becomes about.
I had that happen in college. I was a pretty cynical kid. I was just out of high school, obviously. And I hadn't done any self-actualization, anything like that, of course. I didn't have the tools or resources or the know-how. And I quickly bonded with someone who ended up being my friend for a long time over, like, negativity. We were judging things. We were talking about people we didn't like. And that kind of stuff. And that was the basis for the entire relationship.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, I was like, hey, let's keep this momentum going.
Totally.
And I would be talking shit about people.
I think that's...
And then they would eventually were like, they had to cut it off.
Yeah, totally. I think like a version of trauma bonding is like this this like shared language maybe, or I wouldn't even call it language, but it's like this like shared viewpoint. And I realized this in a particular friend group that I had in the past, where every time we got together, it became this like, all it was like talking about other people and like being like, can you believe this person did this or like got this? It wasn't gossip so much as like, it was like, this person's such an idiot, this person's such a blah blah blah. And like it could be fun for a little while, but at some point I realized that's all it was. And like every time we got together, it always ended up there, and I didn't like being in that headspace. I was like, I don't want to spend my energy or time ragging on other people. And a lot of times it was like, it felt like it came out of a place of jealousy. Like it would be like, these people are doing so well, and like, why are they? Because they're such idiots. Or like everyone in the story everyone in any story was always an idiot. Like it was always like, they're the dumb people. Like, whereas like I was like, well, I think that kind of loses some of the like reality of the situation, because it ended up being like everyone around us is so dumb and we're always so smart.
It's
or whatever.
coping.
Yeah.
And it's, if it is coming from insecurity, it's a way to posture.
Yeah.
Put yourself above other people.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's a fear of like, okay, we're ragging on people all the time. Surely when we're not together, are we ragging on each other? You know what I mean? Could that be turned on us eventually?
I had that, not epiphany, but I like kind of always knew it. But I was like, the moment I leave this room, I'm getting
You're
ragged
susceptible
on.
to the ragging.
Which like I just and that's fine. I just like,
is it a safe space?
don't think but then I like, you always have to be careful about like what you say, because it's going to be used against you. And so I think like ultimately I think like it's important for the people that you really share these like very like vulnerable parts of yourself with, like that you trust ultimately that they have your best interest at heart.
Right. And if you have a rapport already, you know that they're the kind of person that is on board with that kind of conversation.
Yes. And I think that's important too. It's also to say like, is this person equipped, and do they want to,
are they down for it?
Are they down
do
for
they have
this?
the bandwidth for it?
Do they have the bandwidth for it in the moment? Generally speaking, are they like people who want to like unpack this stuff? And you get a gauge of that pretty quickly.
Yeah. How do you know that when you're trying to connect with someone, how can you distinguish whether you're trauma bonding or if you are two people who
with
are
healthy,
with
like,
healthy you know, boundaries and processing and having a conversation that is very productive and healthy?
Yeah. I think it's in the conversation, but I think more importantly, it's like becomes a pattern of behavior. I think it's like, it becomes unhealthy when you do it all the time and it's all you do. I think you can probably sense it in the moment too, if like you're going toward like what's like, if you're more focused on like how traumatic it was versus like how this sort of like how you came out of it, or like I think probably that's a sign that like you guys are focusing on the wrong stuff. You know what I mean? Because you want to like, I think of it as like, if it's unhealthy, you're trying to wring this like towel as dry as possible. Like it's all out. You just like keep wanting to wring it dry.
I got some juice out of this before.
Yeah, exactly. As opposed to like, you know, I don't even know what that metaphor would be from with a dry towel, but like hanging it back up. You know, it's like we're done with that. Or folding it and putting it back in the shelf, on the shelf or whatever. So yeah, I just think like it probably emerges more as like a pattern of behavior than anything else. Like if you're trauma bonding over and over and over again, and that's all your relationship revolves around, what happens when you like get to a better place in your life, right? Does everything fall apart? Do you have anything to like connect on?
That's the other thing that, like for me, I've been a part of friend groups where we all got along with how bad everything was going on for us. And then when I had sort of had enough, not just through willpower, but through like, you know, collective, cumulative effort of like trying to get myself out of the situation, I noticed that there was a growing rift between me and those people that the basis of our friendship was, hey, we're all down in the dumps and you're now elevating yourself out of the junkyard. What do we have in common?
Yeah.
How dare you?
Totally.
Even.
Yeah. There's a resentment that builds.
Yes.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think it's like, And then I've heard of it as like, there are fair weather friends
Yes.
who like only come around when things are good.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's the opposite, right?
Yeah.
Bad weather friends, foul weather friends.
Foul weather friend. I like that.
So like people who like only come around when you're like not doing great
Yeah.
because
we can commiserate.
We can like, you're not a threat to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think you have to be wary again of like people who only want to see you in like a negative light.
Yes.
They only want to be around you in a negative aspect or in a negative like phase of your life.
Yeah, because positivity and growth for you means that it might be possible for them, and maybe they don't want that. Maybe they're complacent.
Yeah, totally.
Or they're only familiar and only want the thing that they know.
Yeah,
which is
totally.
feeling down in the dumps.
Yeah, it's like when you like it's like when you were a kid and you scraped your knee and then you like picked the scab or whatever, right? To keep the wound alive.
Yummy.
Yeah. It's like you can't. Some people can't help it. I think it is probably like a bit of like person to person. Some people just like really like to live in that headspace.
Mm-hmm.
I think some people just probably have a tendency toward being more depressed just biologically, and some people probably learn that behavior too.
Yes, for sure.
From a younger age.
I think it's like tangent. I think the ripest subject matter for trauma bonding is probably relationship stuff. Have you been cheated on? Have you been rejected?
Right.
Has
your
someone
parents
sprung
like
your
did something
advances?
like do
Have
something?
your-
Yeah.
Yes,
Parents
exactly.
divorced? Did your parents not
Yes,
neglect
has it
you?
affected how you affected?
I know. There's always this sense that like what's there. I feel like for a while, and maybe like less so now, or maybe it's just like the people I'm surrounding myself with. Everyone wanted to know what happened to you.
Mhm.
Like there must be something,
Mm-hmm.
like some like hidden traumatic event that you're not talking about, that you're too scared to talk about. And it always felt like so much pressure to like, again, like go back to that community episode,
yeah.
manufacture
Yes,
something that like made you feel like, oh, I sufficiently like satisfied your
Right.
need for me to be broken.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not always the case that there's like one thing that you can point to. And it's not always the case that everyone is completely damaged also. I mean, life is hard for everyone, I think, but like, and then no one's perfect and no one's like completely healthy, but like, not everyone is like, has some deep, like,
Sometimes it's
trauma that they
it's
have
not
to,
that
that they're
deep,
hitting.
I
Yeah.
would
Sometimes it's
say.
not that deep, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. It's like, I think it's funny in talking about trauma bonding is like, maybe like we could talk the converse of like, what is it that people bond over
Mm-hmm.
that like sort of sets up for healthier relationships, I think.
Oh.
And I think that's kind of like, as opposed, like, cause yeah, I think we know like trauma bonding can be beneficial as a shortcut to vulnerability and like also being emotionally available to people. It's a signal that like we're willing to let our guard down.
Mm-hmm. Ultimately, you don't want to feel alone.
I know,
right?
yeah,
Someone's
it's like a
there
shared
with you.
experience for sure.
Yeah.
And I think we need that more in like negative experiences to feel like we can share that because it can feel so isolating. And so I think that we understand the reasons why we might trauma bond. But I think like, yeah, maybe we could take like a little bit of time to talk about like, what are the sort of like maybe early bonding experiences that might actually lead to like healthier relationships, friendships, and that can be like something like, because I think there's some ones that are like superficial, maybe that don't lead to it. Like we have a shared interest in like a hobby or something like that. That doesn't necessarily mean anything, but like I think there are moments where like you realize you share worldviews. And,
Yes,
like the way
exactly.
the way you process things are similar, and I think that always ends up being like, it's always fun to be like, oh my god, yeah, we felt the same way about this other event that happened. Or like when I'm hearing you talk, you're sort of like articulating and like characterizing things in ways that I would.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that is a way. That's if you're paying attention, you're actually listening to the person that's sharing, and they're listening to you.
Yeah.
I think I think the two things, the two sort of like topics. Well, I did mention relationships, which is that could actually be something that leads to something more productive because you can have your experiences validated.
Yeah.
And also reinforced that like maybe you did go about it the right way, or that like, hey, you found someone who operates similarly to you.
Yeah.
And you have a kindred spirit trying to navigate this messy thing of human connection.
Yes.
And the other thing would just be sharing about your journeys of introspection and self-improvement and self-awareness and all those sorts of things.
Yeah. I think in the best way, like, I think when I've had really like productive conversations with people that I'm close with, like it tends to be with people who I like align with major values on,
Mm-hmm.
but they can express things that I wouldn't have thought of and articulate them in ways that I didn't see the world. And in shared conversations, we can build a even more evolved understanding of the world together.
Mm-hmm.
Like that helps, where we're like building off of and like we're like taking in what we're saying, each other are saying, and we're like together building this idea of the world.
Right. And that's like, I think that's a higher nature kind of thing. Because I think if you are inundated with traumas, you might not be able to go past a certain point of like, let me just share this and get
Right.
the feedback I want out of this, and
Yeah.
no more than that.
Yeah, because in the worst way, I think traumas are moments of arrested development, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't get past them, right? But in other ways, they are, in healthier ways, they expand your understanding of the world.
Right.
So it's maybe the better way to put it is like people who process their trauma in a healthy way expand their worldview, and people who don't process their trauma limit their worldview.
Right. They repeat it usually, and sometimes unconsciously.
Yeah.
Because that's all they know.
Yeah.
Totally.
But I think like on the productive side, it's like, yeah, you're not bonding. You use those experiences maybe to like generate viewpoints within the world, but you don't use them as crutches or as like, I don't know, like singular events that like inform the way the world works all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the danger, right?
Yeah, you're like, this person hurt me, therefore everyone must hurt me.
Mm-hmm. Transitive property.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. It's like, again, like I think going to ways that we connect in healthier ways, probably there is a place for the trauma in your life, but it's probably just like expressed and metabolized in a different way.
You've mentioned this in one of the previous episodes about like, it was in the context of pitching, but like when you're talking about a trauma in your life, it should be for the most part processed. If you're going to share, it should feel safe to talk about without the person
breaking
being
down.
like, oh,
yeah, are you okay?
exactly.
Are you okay?
Should feel. And at the same time, sometimes you are in a dark place, and if you have the right support group,
I would argue that is more for people that you don't know very well.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, like don't go to a stranger and trauma dump.
That's happened to me a lot. I've been the recipient of a lot of strangers.
Just totally dumping on you.
Yeah.
Oh wow, you are very like, I think you like present as a very like emotionally available person. So that might be the reason why people like tend to trauma dump. I don't usually get a lot of trauma dumping because I don't think I signal that I'm interested or available for that.
Mm-hmm.
Until like you probably get to know me like later. But certainly I'm like, I think when you first meet me, I present as a very like composed or measured person. And then like the more you know me, the more you realize how much of a mess I am.
Which is a delight. It's a delight. It's truly a delight. Like this is not maybe the healthy way to think about it, but sometimes when you don't trauma dump and you just keep it inside.
Oh, that's the other thing, right? Let's talk about that.
It can be a little fun
to
find out about it.
That is true. Like there probably is, and maybe this happened with me, or maybe it just happens just generally, but like the person who's done such a good job of maintaining a very like perfect composed life in front of everyone, and then suddenly they're just like, oh my God, I can't do this.
Even gods can bleed.
So I don't know. I think it is like a funny, but yeah.
But you're right. It's like a shortcut to humanity.
Yeah.
Right. And
again, I think that swinging to the other side is if you don't ever healthily disclose vulnerable information about yourself, it begs the question, what are you doing with that information? And how are you processing it yourself?
Yeah.
And some people do. But I would argue those people who healthily process it also like talk externally about it too.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the process.
It's part of the process, and they're ideally doing it in the right context.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe some people are just like really good at just doing it with a therapist.
Yeah.
Or just doing it with like a couple people.
Yeah.
And like that's okay too. And I think you get the sense of who's okay and who's not.
Are we doing well?
Are we all? How's everyone doing?
How are we doing?
Everyone doing?
I'm thinking about your stereotypical group of men who are friends who never
Yeah.
really learned like emotional intelligence or empathy. Like the way that
Yeah.
they bond is usually like surface level talk, or they're hanging out and they talk about nothing at all.
Yeah.
I wonder like the value of that, if they get anything of that. Because sometimes the sort of critique or the sort of joke or the thing to sort of satirize is that these guys are best friends. They don't know anything about each other. You know?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I heard someone else talk about male bonding versus female bonding. And so they call female bonding face-to-face bonding, and they call male bonding shoulder-to-shoulder.
Oh, interesting.
So it's like men have usually like something that they're like they're watching sports or they're like
Right.
doing an activity. They're standing shoulder to shoulder. Women tend to do activities that are just there to talk to each other. So they stand face to face.
Is this a case that you're making for dining together facing one direction?
Yeah. Absolutely. I kind of, it's so funny. I just like was editing and like saw that clip and I
Yeah.
was just like, saw how angry I got. And I was like, you shouldn't do it. There's nothing about that that's better.
But there's something about shoulder to shoulder. It's interesting because talk about shoulder to shoulder and masculinity. Like my brother and I,
Yeah.
we've probably done our best bonding when you're playing video games
Yeah.
together, side by side, or
Yeah.
even digitally, like
Yeah.
without us being in the same room.
Totally.
There's a space there, and there's something really interesting.
Yeah.
about that.
I know someone who like was doing therapy and like didn't like it, and then his therapist like said, "Let's shoot hoops while we do therapy," and it made it
Whoa.
better. It was like once you're doing something, you're like
Having a
far
task.
more willing to just like open up. You know what? Probably also what happens is like the part of your brain that was reserved, your brain bandwidth was reserved for like keeping up defenses,
Yeah.
is being used for the task.
Right.
And so you're just like, or you're not, your fear, like you're sort of like that thing that like has like always been reserved for that like emotional distance is like
Mhm.
gone. So you're just like willing to like let it pour out.
Right. Having a task, a shared task.
A shared task. Yeah.
So then, for women, it's face to face. Can you speak on that?
So it's more just like the activity itself is the talking.
Right.
It's like gabbing. It's like we go to have wine and we talk to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not a play video games, play sports, watch sports. It's but I would argue like let's be like maybe take for a moment to consider the fact that like maybe men are giving all the information, but it just has to be interpreted in a more, I don't know,
Mm-hmm. Palatable way for them?
or a more like, maybe you have to be so heightened sensitively to be able to pick up on it.
Right.
Like men aren't going to articulate exactly what they're feeling, but they're going to show you how they feel.
Mm-hmm.
Or they're going to talk about things in a way that gives you the information clearly,
Right.
but you just have to be attuned to it.
Right. And I think there's a lot of discourse around the sort of between the genders about
Yeah.
navigating these sorts of different things, about
Yeah.
how women often tend to be the recipient of most people sharing things about them, and then the confusion between attraction and someone being emotionally available.
Right.
That's another thing that just talk about trauma bonding in general. You can confuse being seen as attraction.
Well, that's a lot of times what they say about like men, especially. It's right. Like they don't get any of the emotional availability with their male friends. So when
Right.
a woman,
And they're also societally conditioned to
not
be
to, sure, we
vulnerable.
should
They've
all,
been burned.
completely. But like when they do get that, usually from a woman, they mistake it for a romance.
Right.
And like that's dangerous too. It's funny. I was listening to a podcast. They're talking about like the age of like social alienation, which is like
Alienation.
our alienation, just
Mhm.
like social isolation,
Mm-hmm.
and how we're in that right now because of social media and because of like apps and digital life. And the like at the very end of the podcast, they basically like took questions from the audience, not literal audience, but like people had like sent in questions, and one of them was like a guy being like, how do I get out there and talk to women?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer was like, go, like in a romantic way. His answer was like, go make female friends.
Yeah.
Like get out there and like start to talk to women. So don't make it into such a big deal to talk to a woman.
Right.
Right. And like so like part of it is also just like exposing yourself to the other sex,
Yeah.
to be like, not every interaction that a man has with a woman has to be romantic or an
Right.
indication of romance.
I think that's the thing. It's the sort of abundance mindset, the mentality, right? If
Yeah.
you're going in with, and also just the aligning with what your goal or your intent is behind an interaction,
Yeah.
right? If you're a single man and you're looking for a connection, you're probably going to assume you want something romantic because that's what you're used to feel like. Hey, I feel seen, I feel heard
Yeah.
when I'm in a romantic context. No one
Totally.
has any room or vulnerability for when I'm me and I open up and people it's too intense for people, or it turns out whatever.
Yeah.
And it's different from if you're just like, hey, let me just make a connection with the person and find out about the person, and then
Yeah.
you can decide later if you're attracted or not and still maintain a relationship.
Yeah.
Then you have a more dynamic sort of value on the connection you make with people that is not relationship based, that's not romantically
Yeah.
connected.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. Like, I think it's just about having a diverse array of relationships with various people.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think, like, I guess circling back, it's like women are better at articulating emotions and being willing to confront them more head on.
It's encouraged.
It's encouraged.
Societally.
Yeah, societally. And so men don't get that a lot, and they only get it from women. And so, like, if they're starved for that, they can mistake any intimacy with romantic intimacy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think everything goes back to judgment. Like
Yeah.
the fear of judgment, the
Mm.
idea of vulnerability. There's something empowering about owning up to the things that you're vulnerable
Yeah.
about. It just matters like your relationship with that thing at the
Yeah.
time of your sharing. Right?
Totally. Yes, absolutely. Nothing, yeah, because, like, I mean, the lesson in life is, like, nothing is, like, absolute. Like, it's all, like, how do we individually process any specific event or thing, a trauma in our past? Like, the same traumatic experience cannot be traumatic to one person, but be traumatic to another person. You could take,
Mhm.
like, for instance, like a house fire.
Mm-hmm.
That could be so traumatic to, like, a 5-year-old,
Mm-hmm.
but to a firefighter,
Mhm.
that's just another day.
Right.
Right? So it's like we have to remember that, like, not all experiences affect all people the same way.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we're probably starting to reach our natural conclusion,
Yes.
but, like, maybe we could do should we just do something fun?
Yeah,
Like,
something
should
with
maybe
levity.
like I mean, like, maybe it could be like a sort of tongue in cheek, like, safe or not safe to share when you first meet someone.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah.
Like, okay, I'll suppose something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
how you broke your leg.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah,
That's a story.
that's a story.
Yeah, that's fun. You're meeting someone and you're in the arts and you talk about how broke you are.
I would say proceed with caution.
Yes, exactly. Keep it light.
I think if it's directly related to the art that you're doing,
Yeah.
maybe. But if it's the first time you're meeting and you haven't even discussed art yet,
Hey, what's going on?
Yeah, yeah.
I am suffocating. I'm drowning.
you're in a scene with a partner in the acting class,
Uh-huh. You got to go
and
for
you
it.
went through the same experience as your character. Do you share that?
Oh, yes. You're in an acting class. I think that's the best
Yeah,
environment
yeah.
to explore that
That's true.
and
That's
have
true.
it be protected.
Yeah,
And then you ingratiate yourself to
yeah.
Did you hear that tooth whistle? My
did you do that?
I was like the
Ooh, I
beaver
love
guy,
that.
like
God, that'd be so cool to have just like a tooth that just like allows you to whistle, like a
that's
like one off tooth.
all the cartoonish beavers talk like that. But I think it's the best in the acting class to explore that. It's the best way. And again, I was being tongue in cheek.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you can
yeah.
ingratiate yourself to other people. Like, wow, they're being so willing to
Yeah.
put it out there and be vulnerable. Wow, they did such a good work.
Yeah. First date.
First date. Careful.
Careful.
Careful. You're putting out soft feelers about what's safe, what's protected.
Yeah.
Don't go too far in.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's definitely, you can take that swing if you're willing to
Right,
accept the possibility
totally.
that you're not.
So
gonna
okay,
make the connection.
someone offers up first date. Someone offers up their own traumatic experience. Do you feel obligated to share one of your own?
I guess it depends how much it resonates, you know.
Yeah.
And again, I'm on guard. If I'm just meeting this person and I don't know if they're trying to do it for the social currency
Yeah.
that we've talked about, or if they're just like, wow, this person's real and down.
Yeah.
It's a gamble. I would say it's a gamble.
Right.
Let's see what else. Let's see what do we
First day
really
of class.
First day of class. In the first day of class, what's the context?
You mean you wander in there, class is not started yet, but there's a couple
Yeah.
people and they're chatting, and you're like, you sidle up to one person who's alone, and you're like, hey, what's up?
You ever
introduce
been
yourself.
cheated on? It's definitely a strong start, which can, if you're charming, it can be kind of fun. But
Yeah, probably not.
you take into consideration
Keep
you're
it
gonna
to
be
the
spending
weather.
you're gonna be spending time with a lot of people. You have a lot of time.
Yeah,
to
you have a lot of time
suss
to do it.
out if it's safe to do that. Yes, for sure.
Um,
I'm trying to think of stuff too.
first day of therapy.
First day of therapy. In an ideal world, you can come out right at the gates with your thing.
Here's my things that I'm dealing with right now.
Yes.
I need to unpack. Yeah.
There are not always good
Yeah.
therapists out there. Some of them are unlicensed. And even that's not a metric alone enough to be like, hey, this person's legit.
Yeah.
But I think if you are seeking help,
You probably
you
should.
have to own up to the thing that you're trying to seek help for.
Yeah.
And be aware of if this person has your best interest or
Yeah.
not, which is hard if you're trying to get a perspective on yourself.
Yeah.
I think you just got to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you
Okay, maybe my last one.
yeah, because I don't have anything.
You're on the final episode of American Idol. You're going for the final vote. you turn to camera and you share with America a story.
If you want to win and you trust that you can pay off with a great performance,
Yeah.
you reveal to the world. I know I presented myself as a very level person,
Yeah.
but actually life has been really hard
yeah.
for me. And you've got it in the bag.
There you go.
Make
You got to
a
do
great
it.
story.
You got to do it. Okay, I think that's a whelp from me.
That's a well for me too.
Awesome. I'm Terry,
I'm Jed.
and this was another episode of
Why Human Do.